Okay. So let me do a quick intro while maybe we let a few more people join in. So welcome to the React. Well, I would like to do also hear from you guys. But first, I wanted to give people a couple more minutes. Maybe we'll get a couple more students join. But again, my name is Fernando Trigoso. I will be the instructor for this React project class. So this is a class in which we're going to be working on an actual project, and it's going to be based on React. And we're going to be developing a WhatsApp clone. So it won't be a mobile app. It's going to be a web app. So it's going to be a web application that runs React, and that has a similar experience to WhatsApp, similar look and feel as well. So, and the goal of the project is to develop a web-based WhatsApp clone where users can add contacts and exchange messages. So that's what we're going to be doing. A little bit about myself before I keep moving forward. I've been using React for over 2 years now. In our startup, we have actually a fairly large code base now using React. The thing I like about it, and the thing that I've seen even after 2 years of having multiple developers working on the same code base, is that the maintenance of the application is it's probably, I think, the biggest win, the biggest advantage of using React. The way things are encapsulated and structured in React, I think, yield very maintainable code. And in software development, if you look at the software development lifecycle, 80% of the cost in software projects is on maintenance. So having using a technology that helps you develop maintainable web applications is it's huge. It's a huge advantage. So yeah, and before that, before doing React, I've been doing web development for 10, 12 years now, using various front-end technologies and server-side technologies. So yeah, let's see, what do we have here? We got 3 students. So let's do a quick intros here. I would like to know your name, what do you do, and also what is the one thing that you would like to get out of the class. Let's start with, I don't know if I have full names here. Ben.
Hi, I'm studying master degree on computer science, and I set a goal for myself. I would like to build a chat app as a side project. That's the main reason why I select this course. And I'm also very interested in learning React. I don't have experience on React, but I just watch few videos on YouTube and learning React and learning what the state is and learning what component is. So I'm very excited to learn this course to build a real chat app based on React.
Awesome. Excellent. I did a master's in computer science also. I think I got my degree in 2005. Yeah. Cool.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah. What school do you go to?
I'm in Stevens Institute of Technologies in New Jersey.
Cool.
Right next to the Manhattan River, and yeah, in Hoboken.
Awesome. So cool. Yeah, I forgot to say I'm based in Raleigh, North Carolina. So yeah, thank you, Ben. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. The next one, I'm not sure if I pronounced it. Ioay is the spelling.
Okay, thanks. Hi, my name is Piotr. I master degree in computer science. I'm front-end developer with 4 years experience, but before I developed with Angular, and I'm a beginner in React
Okay.
for 1 month, and that's all from my side.
Okay.
Thanks.
What was your first name?
Piotr.
How do you spell that?
P-I-O-T-R.
P-E-I-O.
P-I-O-T-R.
Pure.
Piotr. Yes. I'm
Okay.
from Poland.
Apple. Welcome. What do I have here? Marsh or Marshung is the username.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mars, like the planet. I have a bachelor's degree in computer science, and a few years ago, I got my start. I made a career change and got into web development. I've worked primarily as a backend developer for the last couple of years, but it's my eventual goal to be able to take on a full stack development role.
Okay.
Work primarily with PHP, and the latest platform I've worked on was Symfony 2. I do have some React experience. I've looked around in a lot of YouTube videos. I've taken a couple classes before to get an idea of what React is all about. Prior to this, I worked mainly with jQuery and a little bit of Java. I have a little bit of JavaScript experience.
Okay.
Currently, I'm building a chat app at home using React and using a Symfony backend. I'm also getting used to the idea of using WebSockets and whatnot. What do I hope to get out of this course? I want to get an even more in-depth understanding of React than I do now. I really want to be able to understand fully how to think of it and how to get a very, very good idea what the best practices are. And hopefully be able to turn this chat app I have into something that's truly professional, and to develop a far greater understanding of modern-day front-end technologies and further my career along.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mars.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. I think we have some good experience, good level of understanding of computing in general. So yeah, for those of you that are interested in the chat application use case, right? That's I think hopefully the architecture I'm presenting or the designs I present. Hopefully you find those valuable. Cool. So there go. So just to get a quick mockups. Where's the link for this? Assumptions, mockups. Is it Zeppelin, I think. Yeah. So just so you have an idea of what the end product is going to look like, I'm going to show you some mock-ups. And usually the Codementor people, they invite everyone so you can access these mock-ups using this tool called Zeppelin. And this tool lets you, it's like a designer, does this high fidelity mock-ups, and then a developer can go in and see dimensions, hex color codes, CSS, you can just take it from there. So here is like the screen that the user would see the first time they go to our application. Okay. So the web application is going to detect that it's the first time user. And then it's going to show this screen to create a handle, like I'm calling it here. So a handle is what replaces the phone number in WhatsApp. If you have ever used WhatsApp, WhatsApp is a very mobile first, mobile friendly application. So everything starts, with your phone, and it's driven by your phone number. So we don't have that here, so we're just going to be using a handle for that. and just create a name also. We're gonna submit that. Let's see. And then where is it? Here, I think. Yeah. So the first time we after the user creates the profile or the handle with the name, they're gonna see a list of chats and it's gonna be empty, right? And then they're gonna add a contact, and they're gonna add a contact via their contact's handle as well. Okay? And we're gonna be able to see all of this in real time. You know, 2 different browser sessions. You create a handle in one, you create a different handle in the other one, and one adds the other one as a contact. And once you do that, you're going to see that person as a contact here in the chat tab. And once you have that, you can add more people, and eventually you'll see something like this. These are unread counters. You're probably familiar with those. If we have time, we'll see that. But before we do the unread counters, we're going to be doing the actual chat windows. Or chat views. We're going to send messages, receive messages, and see this progress indicators. You know, one check means the server received it. Another check means the receiver received the message. Okay. And it's probably going to be extra credit that we're going to do this unfurling of URLs. Chat applications nowadays are starting to do this. If you put a link on Facebook, you probably notice that it will like go and fetch things about the link, you know, kind of make a pretty post. So that's the idea with this. I've done this class maybe 3 or 4 times now, and we never have enough time to do this. But I will definitely give you some pointers on how I would implement it. Yep. Okay. Those are the mockups. I need to add the link.
A lot of extensions. You can see the ones I have installed, and there's quite a few of them. There's only a couple that I'm going to talk about here, and the first one's going to be this theme. This is the Delco's Dark theme, and I love this theme because when I click here, you see things start to highlight, and it's very easy to see.
Hello.
Hi. This is Venkat, and this is the React class for building a WhatsApp clone.
Yes.
And am I the only one in the class?
No, there's more people. I don't know if you see them.
Yeah, yes, I see them, but I mean, I don't see them. I just see the names.
Yeah.
Anyway, nice meeting you, Fernando. Thank you so
Hi.
much for this opportunity. I'd like to learn this one, and I'll spend my time.
Cool. So it was weird. I thought there was another feed coming through. But what's your first name?
My name is Venkat, V-E-N-K-A-T, Venkat.
Okay. And what I asked everyone else also is, a little bit of your background. What is it that you do, and what is the one thing that you would like to get out of this class?
Yeah, I am an AngularJS programmer, and I'd like to learn React.js.
Okay.
And that too, learning React.js by building such an app like WhatsApp, I think is a very good way to learn. That's why I've joined. And I may ask you how much I missed already, and I'm interrupting the session. I'm very sorry about that. I just came to know.
No, that's fine. No problem there. We just went over the mockups. So
Okay.
you're gonna get an invite to this Zeppelin, and you can go through the mockups and see what we're gonna be doing. I just wanted you guys to have like a visual of what the end product may look like.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Now we won't get to develop all of these features, but certainly most of them.
Sure. And what are the timings of this class? Because nothing was shown to me. It just sent me to this Zoom session.
The class it starts at you want to know? Yeah, it starts at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it ends at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Great, great. I live in Central Time, so it is 7 to 9. Good session time.
Yeah, and it's this class and then 3 more for every Thursday. Yeah, every Thursday. So 4 Thursdays.
4 Thursdays?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'll stop my video now and I'll just concentrate now. And sorry everyone for disturbing you all.
Let's see. I'm gonna post this. Actually, I'm gonna remind Kara here. Let's see. Stop share for a second. Okay. I'm just letting Codementor know to give you guys access to the mockups. Start sharing my screen again. Cool. Hold up. Okay, so yeah, like I mentioned, also the assumption is that since this WhatsApp clone will be web-based only, the users will use a handle instead of a phone number to identify themselves. We got some scenarios here, and I should probably share this. I think this is the link. Yeah, let me share this link with you guys also. There you go. Scenarios. These are a couple of scenarios that to give you an idea of the path that we're going to follow. They're pretty straightforward. You know, it's a first-time usage, similar to what I was describing when I was explaining the mockups. Basically, we have 2 users, and they would like to talk to each other via WhatsApp clone, and one of them is already part of the system, and the other one is already using the system for the first time. And then here we have a series of steps that the user will take to accomplish, to contact the other user, and then both users end up sending messages to each other. And then the second scenario is where you have multiple chats. So if you would like to, kind of get a better understanding of the scenario that we're trying to develop for, then these are the 2 that we're going to be covering. Tasks. These are the tasks that we're going to be following on every class. The first couple classes are more task-oriented, like very specific tasks to set up the API server, to set up the web server, to test everything, to deploy to the cloud. This is not rendering properly. What is that? This is not supposed to show like that. Interesting. Okay. I'll see if I can go through it and fix the formatting. Yeah, and then as we go deeper into the class, it's going to be more working onto the actual features. Like any software project, your initial tasks are developing infrastructure, the technology, making technology choices, developing the low-level functions, and kind of it's a slow start usually on a software development project. And once you have that ready, you can start putting more features faster on top of what you initially developed. And then your speed kind of increases. And then towards the end, once you're testing everything and once you're making sure that all the details are handled, it slows down again. So it's going to follow a similar path, So we're just not going to fully finish the app, but we're going to go through the beginning and kind of the middle part, developing infrastructure, setting up how we're going to be testing everything, how we're going to be deploying everything. And then towards the last 2 classes, we're just going to be adding more and more features. So that's that one. And let me see if I can fix this. Because I'm not signed in. Oop. Edit, wiki, tasks. Strange. Initial setup. Yeah, I think that's what it is. For some reason, it's missing a space. It wasn't missing here. Let's see, regex. And, not anything, but yeah. Find all. Okay, that does it. Strange because it was well formatted and I haven't changed it since last I used it. GitHub must have changed how they interpret some of this stuff, or I'll check the commits. I don't know if strange. Anyways, it seems to be properly formatted now. Web server, solution branch, directory is the titles. I think it's most of what I would expect to see. Okay. So tasks. Then after that, we have, well, there are some prerequisites for the class. You need to have a GitHub account. That's how you're going to access the code. Also, not just for the code, but also for, well, I don't even know if you need a GitHub account to access the code. You probably don't need that because the repo is public. But the way I set up one of the components of the application is that we're going to be using GitHub Pages, and GitHub Pages lets you host static web pages. It is a very easy way to host a web page, and it's free. It's fast. So that's why I have it as a prerequisite. But you don't have to host the static web page on GitHub. You can use whatever other method you want, or I'll mention a couple of others. Yeah, but I'm gonna be doing it on GitHub Pages for this class. Also, a Heroku account. That's I'm gonna our API server. So that's another component. I'm going to show you what the components are in a minute. That's how we're going to be deploying our application, to the cloud, to the Heroku cloud. So to do that, you will need a Heroku account. Now, every one of us is going to be developing our own chat application. Okay, so we're going to be running our own servers. We're not going to be all working in one. So you're going to be, every person's going to be working on their own. And also, it is using Node 6.9, which is the 6.9.x, which is the long-term support version of Node. Let me check. Let's make sure that's still the case, because there is something that changed. Okay, so 6.10 is the, so it's really 6.x, what's long-term support. So we're probably we're gonna be using this latest version, 6.10.3. Okay. So we're gonna get started, but before we do this, actually, I wanted to share our initial architecture for developing this app. Okay, so I wanted to give you guys like a bird's eye view, or like a complete picture, a more holistic picture of how we're going to be laying things down. So here, this is almost like a component diagram. You have your browser, and then we're going to have two servers, three actually. We're going to have a static web server, an API server, and a database server. Okay, or just database, but a database, Flask's database, you need a database server, right? So that's also a server. But the ones that we're going to be developing on are going to be the static web server and the API server. So the static web server serves in the initial HTML page and static assets. But when I say static assets, I mean the JavaScript SPA bundle. And when I say SPA, that's an acronym for single page app. And the entire single page app is served to the browser in one file, and that one file is a bundle, which is a bundle of many other JavaScript files. Right? Static assets are also CSS and images, fonts, maybe, and things like that. So things that don't really change, things that don't have any dynamic nature to them. So those are static, and we serve those via a static web server. And then we have the second component that we're going to be working on is the API server. The API server serves API requests from the SPA. The SPA, again, is the single page app. So once the browser receives the code for the single page app, and once the browser starts to execute the SPA is going to make requests to the API server. So this API server is going to serve requests from the SPA. And the API server is the one that contains the business logic and also uses data from the database. Okay. Okay. Now, the reason for this, like why are we splitting this up, right? Why not just use one web server that serves the HTML and that does the API and whatnot? Because that would work. There's nothing. I mean, that would work. That's how traditionally web applications have been developed. You have one web server, and that web server does everything that your website or your web application needs. But now the way web applications are getting developed nowadays is that you have this split here, and that's because the static assets are very different than requests that need an API, that have business logic, that have actual dynamic code that works with data, that manipulates the data, saves data, reads data, processes, calculates things. And since they're very different, because one that never changes and one is always in motion, is that we put them in different servers so that we can optimize and we can deploy them at different rates. So a static web server needs to or can be cached, heavily cached, because it doesn't change. Whereas data from requests from an API server, usually you don't want to cache them you don't want to cache them the same way you would cache a static web server. Okay. The other reason for doing this is that once you're in production, once your application starts getting used, you can scale things in different ways, right? So you can scale your web server. The configuration for scaling your web server can and probably will be different than how you scale your API server. Okay, you may have maybe if you get a lot of traffic, maybe 2 web servers, and the API server maybe you have 5 of them. I don't know. That's just an example. Okay. The other thing is that by splitting your application this way is that you can leverage services that are designed and offered specifically for the use case of hosting a static web server or hosting an API. So for hosting a static web server, for example, you can use GitHub Pages, which is what we're going to be using. You can use S3, the AWS or Amazon Web Services S3. You can use, there's the one I'm using for my slides actually, surge.sh. These slides are just static content. Okay? So it's really running on a static web server. And the big advantage of using those services like that is that you just put your code up there and they handle the actual serving of those static assets for you. Okay. And then you can use services that are dedicated for the API also. We're going to be using Heroku for us. There's, if you want to use AWS, there's, you probably set up your own EC2 instances, or maybe you use something like Lambda, which is basically just Node.js request, or Azure, so you have, by dividing your application this way, you have more options, and you can use services that work really well for each one of those use cases. Now you can put it all together in one server and just do everything that way. That will work, but I don't think it will scale as well as this type of architecture. Any questions with that? Cool. So this is.
Sorry, I have a question. Are you going to build the API server by Node.js from the ground?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so this is the same view from before, but now this is the view before was more like a logical view. This is now in your local machine, where things are going to run. So this is, you still have the browser. Now your static web server in your local machine is going to be a server that's listening on port, we're going to say 5,000. You're going to put a static web server on port 5,000 in your local machine. And then the API server is also going to be in your local machine, and it's going to be in a different port. It's going to be a server listening on port 4,000. And also in your local machine, you also need a database and a database server. For this particular project, we're going to be using Redis for that. So you're going to be running a Redis process. We could have used any other database. Redis is just the one that I found that would have the, since we're going to be learning so much other stuff about, SPAs, React, Node, WebSockets, authentication, all the other stuff. I didn't have a lot of time to pick a database like Mongo or Couch or SQL that has a bigger surface, a bigger, I think, learning curve. Something like Redis is just a key value store, so the interface is very simple. So that's what we're going to be using. And then this is the same view, but now in the cloud. So when we're in the cloud and we're going to deploy everything, and we're going to have still also the static web server and the API server. But the difference is that in the cloud, GitHub Pages is running this server for us. Okay, we just tell it which assets to use. We could also use a different cloud service like AWS S3 or Surge. And in this case, this is running behind a URL like something like this. Maybe your GitHub username, github.io, and then WhatsApp clone site. So that's the advantage of using a cloud service for your static web server, is that you don't actually have to run and maintain the server. There's already services that do that for you. And then the API server, when we deploy it to the cloud, in the cloud, this server is running on the Heroku infrastructure. And it's going to be running behind the URL like your app name and then .herokuapp.com. Okay. And this one we do, Heroku does give you a lot of, it helps you, a lot. You're just going to have to tell it how to instantiate the server, but you don't have to manually configure the Linux or Unix server from the ground up, right? That's just Heroku has this container-like technology they call dynos, and it automatically, you tell it, hey, create me a dyno or a container for Node, and it creates it for you, and then you just tell it what your entry point is, and it will run that for you. And then it gives you a lot of services. It gives you a lot of advantages. You get logs, you get load balancing, you get SSL. I mean, you name it. You get a lot of stuff by using Heroku. And then the database in the cloud, we are using a Redis cloud service. That's cloud service provider via a Heroku add-on. And that's the other advantage of using Heroku, is that it's easy to add on services to your application. Now you can do all of that yourself. You could go to AWS and create your own servers and configure Node, configure the database the way you want it. And if you know how to do that well, do that. It's always fun to set everything up. But I think using something like Heroku will save a lot of time. And I've actually run production applications in Heroku, and it runs well. Any questions?
Yeah. Say we have a server for APIs and we have a server for the static web pages. But where will our application be hosted? I mean, the interface. Say if I have to go and say React WhatsApp.clone and I want to access the application on the web, where will that be available?
So in the cloud, or it's on your local machine, let's say, right? That's where we're going to be starting. So your local machine, your browser is going to go to this address, localhost 5000. And that's going to get the one HTML page. And the HTML page is going to have a script tag to pull the JavaScript code. Right?
Okay, I get it. Yeah, that was a dumb question, but yes, I get it now. Thanks.
Okay, cool. There's no dumb questions. Any other questions? Cool. All right. So since you will be making changes, so you're actually going to be coding along. Well, you don't have to, it's your choice, however you think you learn best. If you learn best by just watching me go through it, that works for you, that works for you. If you want to actually follow along, you can do that. And if you get stuck along the way, I could help you get unstuck. So up to you how you want to work. And if you do want to make your own changes, then I will recommend to fork my repo into your own GitHub account. That way you can commit to your fork, and because if you want to commit back to mine, it could be a mess. or you could do a pull request to mine, you know, and if it's something that something that's that could be, you know, committed into my repo, you know, I'll approve it and whatnot. But usually people just fork the repo, and then from your local machine, you will clone your own fork, so your own version of my repo. And then every time you want to push to GitHub, you just push to your fork. So after you do that, yeah, you clone your own fork to your local machine. So this is the actual repo. So the first thing we're going to do is, so now that we know kind of what we're going to do, an API server and a static server, the first thing we're going to be working on is the API server. Okay. So after you fork the repo, the way to do that, you go to the link I sent you, and then you go here and fork, and it will ask you to fork it into your own copy, you know, onto your account. So you do that, you have your own account, and then you clone it onto your local machine. So I'll do that too. What's the date today? It's May 25th. Okay. Actually, there's something here. I just have a lot of versions of this class, which is why I have directories by date. But you probably don't need a date. You could just do classes, WhatsApp clone, or put it anywhere in your local machine. And everything we do is also compatible with Windows, so it should work also. If you have any issues, again, just let me know. So we're gonna clone this guy. Trying to download here. Okay, now I have my WhatsApp clone. I have cloned my WhatsApp clone project or repo. We're on the master branch. So the first thing that we have to do, I believe, is wiki tasks is to, no, let's not grab the solution branch because that has a solution. But if you ever get stuck, or if you just want to skip ahead, you can check out the solution branch for this set of tasks. Okay. So really, if we open this up, or we look at what we have here, it's only the README. So there's really nothing. It's a completely blank directory right now. Okay. So what we can do is, for good practice, is I'm going to create a branch called dev. I'm going to be working on that branch, on that dev branch. So just the README, and the README says just, yeah, this is a project class, nothing else. Okay. So we're in the dev branch. we know it's pretty much a blank directory except for the README file. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure that we're running the LTS version of Node as of November 2016. So we're going to update this. It is now 6.10.3. May 2017. It is 6.3. So I haven't tried it with this version of Node. I may have tried it last class. So let's see if we get lucky and it works without issues. Okay. Yeah, make sure you're running the latest version of Node. So for that, you can just go node-v, and that will tell you which version you're running. So probably the latest one I had was 6.10.0. So I'm going to update to 6.10.3. Now, the way, if you don't have Node, then you can go to the website and just install it from here. If you do have Node, you're like me, that you have other version of Node, and you don't want to overwrite it, then you can get the package called N. This one manages several Node versions, okay? And that's the one I'm going to be using. And this is how you install it. And there's also one for Windows. I don't know if I had the notes of that somewhere. I think it's NVM or something like that. But you probably Google it and just find Windows Windows Node package Node version manager. Yeah, I think it's this one, NVM Windows. Yeah. So you got options for Windows as well. Okay, so tasks, which one? That version. So since I have N already installed, what I'm gonna do is this is the way you use it. You use N and then 6.10.3, and that's going to, if I don't have that version, it's going to install it. Usually you need sudo for this. Cool. So if I go node-v now, it says 6.8.3. And if you ever want to change back to a version you have, you can just go N, hit enter, and it will list all the Node versions that are installed in your system, in your local machine. So I have all of these versions. And you can just go up and down and pick the one you want. Same one. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, and the first thing, since the API is going to be running in Node, the first thing we're going to be doing is creating using npm to create package.json. And package.json is a file that declares all the dependencies, and it has some other a way to. It also has like a section where you can declare your own scripts to. For like running tests or running builds or like telling Heroku what to run when it starts. So I'm going to do npm init and ask you some questions. I think I usually go with all the defaults. Yeah, it's okay, yes. Okay. Now we have a package.json. Okay. Now we're also going to add node modules and the distribution directory to gitignore. So first we need to create that gitignore file, touch gitignore, and then we're going to be adding to it. And I use WebStorm. See if this works. We started. Winter license. I do have a license. Sorry about this. We'll have to. I'm just going to use Sublime for now, and I'll have this WebStorm for next class. Okay. I'm trying to remember this. I have to do. So let's do this. So, and the reason WebStorm is actually a tool, an IDE I would recommend for web development, especially with React. It helps out a lot, and it has a lot of nice features to make your development faster or more enjoyable. WebStorm also works well. It's just a text editor though. It's not an IDE like WebStorm is. So create the package.json. Here it is. And then what we're gonna do next from this is that we're gonna add a few things to get it. Actually, I think we had this file. It was just a hidden file in our repo, and it was already ignoring this hidden folder that's created by WebStorm. It's ignoring node modules and the distribution directory. Distribution directory is where we're gonna put things that we're gonna, things for more like for when we build our files. And then we have an environment .env also. .env is gonna be a file where we put environment variables. Now, the first thing that we're gonna do here is we're gonna be installing Babel. Now, the reason for this is that Babel transpiles JavaScript ES5 to ES6. Node version 6, which is the version we're running, has 99% support for ES6, except for ES6 modules, unfortunately. So we will use Babel to only transpile our ES6 modules. And the modules are these import and export statements. And here's a link to the plugin in Babel that we're going to be using. So to install Babel node, we're going to run this command. So that all got updated. We go to node modules and we'll see that a lot of stuff got added. All of this gets added. We install Babel node, and Babel node has all of these dependencies. So they were also installed. A couple versions ago, npm it changed a bit. Like before, you would open up modules and you would just see, like, if you install Babel CLI, you would only see a directory for Babel CLI. And inside of Babel CLI, you will see another node modules directory with all of its dependencies. But they have changed now, and all of the dependencies are like flat now in the directory. So that's why you see like Babel CLI depends on AnyMatch. So AnyMatch is installed also at the high level, at the top level. I think the reason for this is that if you install some other module that also use, for example, AnyMatch, then you will have to get the same dependency because it's already there. So also we need to install the Babel modules plugin. And again, Babel transpiles JavaScript ES5 to ES6. And there's a lot of features that we're adding with ES6, JavaScript ES6. const, let instead of var, classes, what else? Spread operators, maps, sets, data structures. So a lot of the stuff, different, for of, for in, for loops. But Node already supports all of that. The only thing it doesn't support is the import and export statements. So the modules. So we're only installing the plugin for that. So that's the line that we're going to be using for that. Running it, installed. And now we're going to create a Babel RC file and configure Babel to only use that module plugin. Create this file. Touch Babel RC. These are the contents that should go in it. And depending on what you're doing with JavaScript, this works for this project. It's just what we need for it. But if maybe you're doing something else, and I don't know, you have to use a different version of Node, or maybe you're using Electron. Electron, it's a technology that lets you create your native Windows or Mac applications that use Node. Slack, for example. This Slack app, it looks like a Mac application, but it's really, it is a Mac application, but it's written using Electron. So this is all like HTML that they have here. It's all HTML and JavaScript that feels like a native application. The way they have done that is it's probably the same code that they have when you go to the Slack web app. And they just wrap it with something called Electron. And then Electron, how it works is that it runs like its own Node.js V8 version. So if you do some stuff like that, there's a lot of stuff that you can do with JavaScript, right? And you need to use Babel. So you're gonna go to Babel, and then you're gonna have to find the stuff that you want. You're not gonna have to learn how to kind of trial and error, see what it is that you need. Because this is the one module that we're using, the ES 2015 modules to Common JS Transform, but there's a lot of plugins. They have some presets for different contexts, for React, for Flow, different versions of ES6, and all of these different plugins, the arrow functions, block scoping, classes. Let's say you only need like a few of those, then you will go here and you're gonna find what you need. And again, the universe of JavaScript is large and ever expanding, so, but it's, and that's, it mimics the nature of the web, right? The web it's kind of like that, you got different, it's moving, in different ways, because of very different, interest or as technologies come along, new things get added, but it's very wild. So JavaScript and its universe is also kind of wild. So we have Babel, we set that up, and now we're gonna test it, and that's something that I'm gonna be doing through the rest of the class. We're gonna do something and we're gonna test it. Okay, we're not gonna do a lot of things and then test everything together. Okay. So we're gonna do something. We're gonna test it, and if possible, we are also going to deploy it and test it once it's deployed. Okay. So we're validating small increments, similar to an agile process. So test the Babel setup here. We're going to create this file. Hopefully that's not too low on your screen. So we're going to make that directory src, go to it, and create that file, test.babel.js. And inside that file, we're going to copy this code. So So what's happening here is we are importing a module that comes with Node. So it's not one that we declared in our package.json or that we installed via npm. It's actually a module that comes from Node called path. And what path lets us do is that it lets us join strings to form a path. Right? It's for like directory paths or file paths. So here we have a list of directories, some with a slash, one without, one with a slash in the middle, and one with like ... Right? So what we're going to do here is, we're going to join path.join. We're going to join this array. Right? And the way you would do this in non-ES6 code is that you would have to, this join doesn't take an array. It takes a list of parameters, a list of arguments that's like an array. Right? So the way to do this in ES6 is that you spread that array. So this is an ES6 feature, JavaScript ES6 feature. And then we're just going to print out the results. So we're going to set up Babel. So to test this, we're going to need a way to run Babel. And so that what we expect with the test is that when we run Babel on this file, I would expect this import to be converted into something that Node understands. But I would not expect this spread to be converted because Node version 6 already understands the spread operator. Okay. So set up Babel in package.json. Scripts, build. So like I said before, package.json not only helps you see what dependencies you have, which are these other two that we installed, but you could also add scripts to it. And the scripts are like helpful commands that you're going to be using. So in this case, we're going to call it build. And what it's going to do is going to clear the distribution directory, and then it's going to call Babel on anything that's inside the source directory, and it's going to output it into the distribution directory. So it's basically saying, Babel, grab everything from source and put it into the distribution directory. And we're here, we build it with npm run build. So the way you run a script is you go npm run and then the name of the script. And it finished. So yeah, and to see that it works is that if we run the version in the source, okay, let's go here. If we use Node to run that file for the source directory, then since it's using an import statement, it shouldn't work. It fails. And it fails, it says, it has this import, this indicator here that something went wrong with that, and it's saying it's an unexpected token import. Okay. But now if we run the test Babel from the distribution directory, which is the file that got transpiled by Babel, I would expect this to work. You see, it output the result of that array that we had. Okay. What was it here? You see full bar, BAZ, ABC, query, and why didn't join QWERTY?
Fernando, I have a request.
Yes.
Could you please pull the windows to the center of the screen because the overlapping dock windows are covering portions of the screens? Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I was worried about that. Thank you for letting me know. I guess this is going back one. Yeah. Anyway, so the printout worked with the distribution one and not with the source one because Node doesn't understand this import. But So if we look at the source file that got transpiled, then we see that it uses require, and require is the way Node imports modules. So that's what it's doing here. And all of this code from line 1 through 7 was transpiled and generated by Babel. And everything else is pretty much our code, except this part, because they had to do something to change how the module is accessed. But so this is what Babel is doing for you. And usually you don't have to go and see what type of code it transpiled, what type of code it generated, but it's good to know what it's doing and how it's doing it, so that you can, it's good to know how your stack is working and what it's doing for you. So when you see an issue, when there's a bug, you get a good sense of where in the stack is the bug or the issue or the thing that's not working. Okay. So the next step is to create a simple test server. And we're going to create a test server in the source directory. There you go. And this is the contents for that server. We're going to import the HTTP module, which is also from Node. We're going to use port 4000 because we don't have this. This is going to be falsy. And then we're going to create an HTTP server, something very simple, the simplest HTTP server you can have in Node. Then we're going to listen on the port 4000. So again, import is not something Node understands, so we need to transpile it. And the way we transpiled is using npm run build. Okay. And now we go to our code and we see that both Babel and the server have been transpiled. And now we're going to run the server. I'm going to run it using Node distribution. We know the source one won't work. So test server. Yes, I want to allow connections to that port. So now we have server running at port 4000. And now what we're going to do is we're going to test that that's working. Hello React class is what we received. If we go here, we see that that's exactly what I would expect. Hello React class. Okay. So our server is running, and working. Okay. So now we're going to set up Babel-Node. Now Babel-Node will compile ES6 code before running it with Node. Okay, so it's going to transpile it on the fly. It's going to help us avoid having to run build all the time. And Babel-Node comes with Babel CLI install. Because you can see as you make more changes, it will get annoying to have to run npm build all the time and then run the actual node command. So the way to avoid that, let's add a script for that. JSON. Let's use Babel-Node. Babel-Node. So this command basically wraps Node. You pass it a file, and it's going to transpile and then send it to Node. And then to test it now, we're going to be using this command. So let's make a change to our server, hello real class. So we made a change, and now it's going to be npm run Babel-Node, and then Babel-Node. And then now we can run the actual source directory. Or we can run files inside the source directory. You can see server is running at port 4000. We go in our browser, we refresh, and we see the change. Okay. Now, to make our lives even easier, we can set up NodeMon. So NodeMon, it monitors file changes and automatically reloads your server. Okay. And we can set up NodeMon so that when it detects a change, it runs it through Babel-Node. So we do need to install this as a module. And this is only going to be running in our development environment. We don't want to use NodeMon to run our production API server, because you're not going to be making changes on your production server. At least not direct changes on the file structure. So we install NodeMon. We're going to add it to scripts. NodeMon. I'm going to execute it using Babel node. So then now we're going to be using, we're going to run it with test server. We're going to run the test server again. With NodeMon. To do that will be npm run NodeMon, and then the name of the file that we're going to run. And then we're going to watch. So server is running at port 4000. Let's see what we get here with NodeMon. And now we should be able to make a change, and the server will restart. And then so the only thing we have to do is just go to our browser and refresh. NodeMon. Some change. Save. We go here. That should be enough time for the server to have restarted. We refresh, and we see that indeed it picked up the new change. We go to our terminal, and if you follow this, it's going to say restarting due to changes, and it starts the same command from before. Okay. So now we're getting on a better flow, on a better workflow using. We've set up the stack now, right? Babel at the lowest level with just on one plugin. On top of that, we have Babel Node. On top of that, we have NodeMon. Okay. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to look at is called ESLint. So we're going to set up ESLint. ESLint is a quality tool, a code quality tool, and it checks JavaScript syntax. Very useful. Highly recommend it. I think it will help you find a lot of bugs before they actually get to your application, before you actually see them, because a lot of issues are just syntax issues. Well, a good number of them are. So it's helpful to have something that helps you automatically check for that. Also, if you're working in a project, with multiple people, it's good to have a style guide. So this will help you set that up. So we're going to install it and configure it. We need to npm install it with this command. After we do that, so we can run it. Now, this is the way to, I've been adding things to the script tag. So this is one way to do it without adding it to the script tag. Okay? So if you don't add it to the script tag, then you have to pass the path to the module that you want, the absolute path. So you have to pass node modules.bin ESLint. Now, if I add ESLint to my script tag, then I don't have to do that. So let's see if I can explain better what I'm saying. So I could do ESLint. And since this is in the context of NPM, it knows that everything is from node modules. So I could just do ESLint. And then I don't have to type no modules.bin.ESLint. So if I do this, then there will be, this is probably confusing. Let's just call it lint. So let's create a script called lint. And the script called lint, what it's going to do is going to call the node module called ESLint. Okay. Or not the module, but the node module that has an executable that's inside the .bin directory called ESLint. So we can do that. Let's see if we can do both. Actually, So npm run lint -- init will be equivalent to, so this command right here, because of the way I set up my script tag, will be equivalent to this command right here. No modules.bin ESLint -- init. Let's see if that's true. Happen here. ESLint options. Oh, to pass options to it, you have to do -- and then the options, I believe. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so that's one way to do it. So that would be the command, or it would be the one that's here. So same thing, same result. So it's up to you. You can decide if you want to add it to your script tag and your package.json or not. You know, maybe if it's just like a one-off command, you don't need it. You don't need it. If it's something you're going to be using a lot, it might be helpful. But even the notation for the script tag, it's a little bit funky. You have to do all of this to make it equivalent to this. So use a popular. So let's see what my questions were. My answers were here. I have. Ask a question about style. Yeah, I would like to answer questions about my style. Are you using ES6 features? Yes. Are you using ES6 modules? Yes. I'm gonna use both. This code is going to actually run in both. Some of our code is going to run on both browser and Node. It's what some people call isomorphic JavaScript. I think universal JavaScript is a better name. So we're going to be doing that universal JavaScript. Do you use CommonJS? No. Do you use JSX? Yes, JSX is the syntax for React, for developing React components. So yes. Do you use React? Yes. We're going to be using tabs. At least I'm going to be using tabs. I like single quotes for strings. That's what I'm going to put. If you like double quotes, go for it. What line endings do you use? This is Mac, so we went Unix. Do you require semicolons? I'm going to put yes. I like semicolons at the end of my JavaScript lines. But again, this is just a matter of personal style, personal preference. What format do you want your config file to be in? I think I put JSON. Yeah, JSON. So it's installing the stuff that it needs. And it successfully did it. And then to test it, we're going to be running we're going to be running lint on the code that we have right now. Yeah. So npm run lint should be like this. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Okay, so it went through lint and it found a couple of issues. It's an unexpected console statement. There's a way to make it accept console statements. LinkedIn complains about that. I mean, you can configure all of this. Go to here. ESLint.json. The rules. You can add rules. Indent error tab quotes changes. There you go. Rules. No console. Disallow the use of console. Yeah. So the way to set this up is allow. I already showed that. Let's see if that works. It's invalid. Console disallow. Allow. Allow. There rules an object of exception allows an array of string to allowed methods of it. So we're gonna go allow. So we could do error. We could do allow. This is JSON, so you have to double quote everything. Off is what you want, but let's see if we can do error. See if that does it. Yep, that worked. So now it's gonna error out if you use console, but it's gonna allow console.log. And that's helpful for in this code here. Console.log, is something that exists and something that's correct. If I typo, console.log, I run this, it should complain. Yeah, an expected console statement. Okay, line 7. There you go. Also, if I miss a semicolon, it should warn me about that. Missing semicolon. Little error that's more specific of what's actually happening. So all good here. That's ESLint. Let's commit our changes. We have made a lot of changes. Add everything. That's what we've done. Okay. So now we have a server actually, right? So we can deploy it to Heroku. We can deploy it to the cloud. We can test that's working. So to do that, now we have to set up Heroku, right? So if you go to this link, it shows you kind of documentation on getting started with Heroku. And the main thing is that you have to install the Heroku CLI. Okay. Once you have the Heroku CLI, then you have the Heroku commands available for you to run from your terminal. So you log in and create the Heroku app. And once you have that Heroku CLI all set up, and it's here, you click ready to start, and then you download the Heroku CLI. And then when you do that, you can log in via your terminal, assuming you already have a Heroku account. So I'm going to do that. And to log in and create a Heroku app. have to reset my password. Yeah, I'll reset my password. Seems I've remembered. Okay, logged in, and now I can create a Heroku app. Okay, so it already gave me a URL for my app. Now what I have to do is that in package.json in the script tag, I need to add a script called post install. And this is going to signal Heroku what to do right after they still right after the container is set up. So post install. So after that, on that post install, I want to run npm run build. Okay. And remember, this is the initial command that we ran, right? This one up here. The one that we kind of moved away from because it was so manual for us, right? Because we had to do that and then run node. But so it was very manual for us on development mode. But once we're in production mode, that's actually the command we want, because we want to transpile everything and we want to run the transpiled files. Remember, I said you don't want to run nodemon in production. You want to run actual node. So we're going to have it do an npm run build, which is going to transpile everything, and the transpilation now is going to happen on Heroku. And then in the proc file, it is something that, sorry. Heroku is going to look for this file so that it knows what to start. So when the server is ready, then Heroku is going to run. It needs to run some file that will start some process. So in our case, it's this test server that we've been testing, and it's going to be in the distribution directory because Heroku is going to run that post install, which runs which does an npm run build, which uses Babel to put everything from the source directory to the distribution directory. So once we have everything in the distribution directory, then we're going to tell Heroku to run this command: node distribution directory test server.js. And this is the web role, that, as Heroku calls it, where this is an API, a web application. So it's going to be looking for this role here, or for this prefix, I should say. Also, it's good to tell Heroku which they call it engines, so which version of Node and npm we're using. And this has changed. So Node-HB, npm-HB 6.10.3. Let's edit this. is 3.10.10. So Heroku is going to look at these numbers and it's going to set up the server with this version of Node and that version of NPM. So that helps us. It makes the deployment even more explicit. And also, it helps us run the same version or the same version of Node and NPM on the server that we're running on our local machine, right? So our local machine, our development environment, it mimics a production environment very closely. Okay. So we have a bunch of stuff here. Now we're going to create I have it here, create a release branch. Depends on what kind of workflow you want to follow with Git. For this one, I would like to always push to Heroku from a release branch. That way, if I want to know what's deploying Heroku, I can just go to a release branch, or what's deploying on the cloud, I can just go to a release branch and see. Profile, everything. Okay. So we're going to create that release branch. That's created. And to deploy to Heroku from our release branch is actually very simple. Because Heroku, what it does when it creates, remember I did a Heroku create that creates a Heroku app. Well, it also instantiates a Git repo, a remote Git repo in Heroku. So to deploy to Heroku, the only thing you have to do is you have to push to that repo. When you push to that repo, Heroku will detect that there are new commits, and then we'll deploy that code. So what we're going to do is we're going to push to our Heroku, Heroku remote repo, and we're going to push from our release branch to the remote master branch. Okay. Now, so you can see that that's an actual remote repo. If you go git remote, we have two remote repos that we're tracking. We have the Heroku one, and we have the origin. And the origin is the one in GitHub. This is my repo in GitHub. It's still a remote repo. And Heroku is also a remote repo. So to push to it, we go git push Heroku from our release branch to the remote master branch. And off it goes. We found the engines that we put, 6.10.3, 3.10.10, so that's what is installing. Building dependencies. It went really fast, but I think you have it here that it ran post-install npm run build, which is really this command. Okay. Compressing everything, verify and deploy. And now we can launch the app in Heroku, in our browser. It's just Heroku open, or you can just go grab this URL here and go in your browser. Or this Heroku open command does the same thing. Yeah. So we got hello class with no mod dash some change, which is actually what we had, right? That's the last change we made to this test server. We could probably make hello class from Heroku. Let's do that. We have that, so that's just one change to test server.js. We commit that, tweak, and then we push again to Heroku from our release branch to their master branch. And it will go through that process again. It's probably a little bit faster now that Node is installed. But that's really transparent to you. Heroku will handle, what's installed. If it needs to install it, it will install it. If it's already there, it'll optimize things for you. So we go to this page, we refresh, and now we see Heroku React class from Heroku.
Excuse me, Fernando, I have a question.
Yes.
I pushed to the Heroku release master branch, and I tried putting in the following inlet 3822, the URL that was provided, but it took me to a page just saying deploying with Git. I'm not sure what step I missed.
Okay. So we're gonna look at that. Let's look at that. But so this next thing is something that you can check also. So if it fails, mine hopefully didn't fail, but if it fails, you can check logs. The way you do that is Heroku logs --tail. And this is actually telling in real time, so soft real time, what's happening on your application. So if I go here, I refresh again, it's another request. And you see the request coming through here. It's a request to the default path. And it gives you some metrics. So also it has logs when you deploy. Logs release, the commit number, restarting, all that stuff. So if you run that Heroku log Heroku logs, Heroku logs --tail, hopefully it will give you some indication as to why it's failing.
Yeah, it's not showing me anything. All it is stating that it started. The server started running at port 52711. That's pretty much it.
52711. Let's see. Release, build started, server run. Okay, cool. So server running, something similar to this.
Yes.
Server running at port X.
Yeah, those three lines surrounding starting process, server running, and state change. Those are the only three things that are appearing in my Heroku logs --tail.
Okay, now do Heroku open on your terminal.
Okay, 1 second. Heroku open.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, I think you may have gone to the Git repo URL. Is it .git? Probably is where you went.
I see.
It was confusing, and initially I said go here, but I really meant to say go up here.
I see. Thank you.
Cool. So yeah. So the logs. You got that. Okay, cool. So we deploy to Heroku now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to set up Express.js. Express.js is a popular web server for Node.js. Okay. There are others out there. Express.js is very popular. It's got a ton of support, so it's something good to get started with Node. So now we're going to create an API server that uses Express, and we're going to use this code below. So source API-server.js. So before we had a test server that's just to test things out, to test the deployment, our configuration. Something very small, very simple. Because really, I think the riskier part there was to test everything else around it. How to set up the development tasks, the scripts, the configuration with Heroku, how to deploy it, all that stuff. So we wanted the code to be as simple as possible. So now we're going to be adding a little bit more complexity. And now instead of a test server, we're going to have an actual API server, and eventually this server is what's going to become our API server. So API server, right here. We import Express, from the module that we just installed. We got an app using that, an Express app, an instance of an Express app, I should say. Got a port, and we have a route, the default route, and we have hello React class from Express.js. And then we listen on that port, and we got some logging going on here. Yeah, we only have one route so far. So now we're going to test it with NodeMon and our browser. Source API server. Okay, so Express app is listening on port 4000. We go to port 4000, and we go hello React class from Express.js. Okay, so that's what we wanted. Quickly, let's push this up to Heroku. Let's leave that running there. So status, we add a new file, commit. API server, have that. So get pushed to Heroku from our release branch to their master branch. Like that. They finish deploying, we go to our Heroku app. We would expect to see something like this, right? Hello React class from Express.js. And we refresh, and we see the same thing that we got before. Why is that? That is because Heroku is still running the test server. Okay. So the only thing we have to do is change this to API server. Heroku test server, please. Push. Cool. There you go. Hello React class from Express.js in our Heroku app. So we got Express.js up and running. The next thing. Okay, so we have that. So the next thing is to set up our third component, which is Redis. Right? So to install Redis, you can go to this URL to download it. For Windows, there is a version of Redis that you can run on Windows. They have a link here on how to do that. Yeah. And you have instructions on how to run it. I've actually run Redis on Windows maybe 3-4 years ago, so I know it works. It works well too. So you can follow those steps. They are on version stable 3.2. which is the version 329. Let me see what I have. I have version 328, 326, 324. Okay, so I don't have 329. So the way to do this, I believe it's you can get it, or you can just download it. We tar it, we go into it, and we make it. Binaries are now compiled, available in the source directory. Run Redis with. Okay, so you can follow the instructions. Stable. You can just download it here as well. And then you grab that file and you put it in your you put it in whatever directory you want to run Redis for. So give me a second. Okay, so I have that 329 tar GC that I downloaded from the website. So you can just double click on it and it'll unzip it for you. That's the tarx, equivalent to this, the first two set of instructions. So you just need to run make on that. Go into it and run make. So to do that, give a tab. My user directory, dbs, cd redis, -3.2.9. So once I'm in there, I can just run make. And that's compiling all the binaries. Okay, so that's done, and now we can just run Redis server. To do that, they say to do Redis-server. Yes, allow connections to Redis. And now the server is now ready to accept connections on port 6379. Okay, so we got our database. Very simple. So Redis.
Fernando, I'm sorry, I have another question.
Yes.
When installing Redis, the wget command on my Ubuntu Linux doesn't seem to work. I tried going the homebrew route. Unfortunately, the instructions I have there don't seem to really be compatible with what's on this page. Do you know how to get around this?
Yeah. You could just, I mean, you could go to their page here, right? Because this is all their other. Go to stable. Yeah, go to their website.
Okay, I'm on there right now.
Yeah, click this download 329.
Okay. I have it.
Okay, cool. So just place that in the directory that you want and tar it. You know, this should work in your Ubuntu box.
Okay.
Then yeah, just go into a directory and just run make inside of it.
Yeah, it's installing it now. Thank you.
Sweet. And then to run the actual server, you go src/redis-server.
Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, you should see something like this. Sweet. Okay, so what do we have here? So make sure your local Redis server is running, and mine is running. Now we're going to install the Redis client for Node. Okay, so you have a database, or then you have a database, you need some type of SDK or some type of code that lets you connect and lets you interact with the database. And Redis has one for Node. So this is the client. Make sure you leave your database process or your database server running. So here. Install Redis. And then we're gonna create a Redis client.js that exposes the setup Redis function and the Redis client. We're gonna call setup Redis from API server. Call setup Redis from the API server.js. Add Redis route that increments in test and returns an incremented value. And then we're gonna add it to Heroku and then deploy and test. So so the way to do this, exposes the setup Redis function and the Redis client. So let's take a look at the solution for that. Select API server version 2 source Redis client. So this is the function, the code that we're referring to. Just for experience's sake, I'm gonna paste it here. So basically what it's doing is it's importing Redis, the module that we just installed, and it declares this setup function. Yeah, it checks if there's a Redis cloud URL environment variable. If there is, it means that it's in the cloud. It means that we need to create the Redis client using that remote URL. But if there's no if we don't have that environment variable, then we're going to assume we're connecting to a local Redis. And to connect to a local Redis, you don't need a URL or a port or anything like that. The SDK figures out how to connect to Redis. Then we set up some callbacks here for some events. On connect, we're going to print this out. That Redis client emit a connect event, and on error, we're gonna also emit, at least log that error. Okay. And we're gonna export the setup function as setup Redis, and the client as Redis client. So the setup function creates an instance of the client, and that client is what the rest of the application is gonna use to connect to interact with Redis, that Redis client. Okay. So if you're not familiar with, we've only seen so far import modules like this, but this is export. This is an export module. But this is a way to export modules in JavaScript ES6. There's a lot of stuff that you can do with import and exports. You can export just a function. You can export just an object. You can export, it, and you can import something and rename it into something else. So I would encourage you to read up on ES6 modules if you're not familiar with that. The idea is very simple, but it's just useful to know like all the different things that you can do with it. Because for example, here we have export setup as setup Redis and client as Redis client, but I could have just done export, setup and client, just like that. But then the modules that that import this would have, this function called setup and this function called client that are so generic, right? So instead, I prefer to use this. The other thing you could have done is that we could have exported up here. Just export that function straight out, so then we don't need this. Even I believe you could export that guy too. So there's a lot of options with ES6 modules. So this is what we have right now. We did that task, and now we're going to call setup Redis from the API server. API server. So we're going to import. Import setup Redis from API. Get I'll probably do it up here. Setup Redis. So setup Redis should log some stuff when it's connected. Now node-mon is probably restarting, but there you go. Redis client emitted connect event, connecting to local Redis, and Redis client emitted connect event. Sometimes if you change some configuration file, node-mon may not pick it up. Only in those times is that you have to actually restart node-mon. But it seems that it picked everything up correctly here. So we're already connecting to our local Redis. So now what we want to do is we want to add a Redis test route that increments some key and returns a new incremental value. So now we're connected, but we actually want to do something with it, right? To actually test that we can really get to it. So in the API server, we just had this one default route, but now we're gonna have another one. I'm gonna call it Redis-test. Request response. So we do need now the Redis client. I believe it is server. So here we have increment sold return. Okay. So we got Redis client increment. The key that we're going to use is we're just going to call it inc test. It could be anything here, inc foo if you want. An error, and there's going to be a result. This is comes back from Redis through its library, through its through the client, right? When I mean client, I mean database client. So if error, we'll log it. And we could response that. With Express, you can send a status code. Yeah, or just can you say 500, internal server error. We're going to send a message and not or something like that. All right, it's kind of but if there's no error, we will do response.send. And when you do a send without a status, it's like doing status 200, which is okay. So you can do that, and then send new incremental value. Sublime doesn't understand this interpolation syntax. Result. General. Yeah. And that's it. But again, you could do that, or you could just do response.send. So let's see how that works. Let's see what NodeMon's been doing. It's been restarting. So we should have that route available now. Redis test. There you go. And the incremental value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we go to another session, you know, the increments continue. It should be 23 now, 24. So we can actually now, we've tested that we can connect to our database in a very minimal way. Okay, so now we added Redis, we tested it locally, and the next step is to deploy it, to test it out in the cloud. Now in the cloud, we're not gonna have like our API server is not gonna be running the database server on, on the same machine or anything like that, right? We're gonna be using a separate service for that. And the way to do that is to use, in Heroku at least, is that the easiest way to do it in Heroku is to add an add-on to the application. So you're gonna create an add-on for Redis Cloud 30, which is like their free plan. But you could go out to a different service provider that doesn't have an add-on hookup with Heroku, and you can set it up yourself also. What this is helpful is that it creates like a new account with the provider of Redis Cloud, and it automatically sets up the URL to connect to it for the application, which is this environment variable. It will set that automatically for you, Redis Cloud URL. So if you guys do that, that should be set up for you guys automatically. Now for me, since I already have done this application many times, and I'm using the same Heroku account, there's only a limit that you can only have one of these free instances per account. So I'm just gonna reuse the one that I had before. If I can find it. Yeah, it's here. Redis Cloud. Should be that. Could go to. I could add that configuration variable through here, or I could do it through the terminal also. Heroku config set. Redis Cloud URL. Equals that. Yeah, that worked. So in this app now, there it is. So my application now has access to that. But again, I had to do this because I already had a free Redis Cloud instance. But if it's your first time, you can just do this, and that should work. So that's set up, and now I should just have to deploy this to Heroku. And this is running the API server. I mean, Heroku should run the API server, which let me double check. It's already running. Yeah, we did that. So it's just a matter of saying git push to Heroku from our release branch to their master branch. Cool. So this should be working as before. Seems that way as a default route. But now if you go Redis test, there you go. The incremental value is 1. It's 1 because it's a different database, right? It's in the cloud. 16, 17, 18. Yeah. Excellent. Deploy to Heroku test registrar. Done. Any questions?
Fernando, I do have a question.
Yes.
I got kind of lost when you were establishing the initial setup for Redis. Will this code be available at the end of the session?
Yes. You can just go to the repo.
Okay.
And the branch. Just go to this SLN 00 API server v2. Sorry for the long name. But that has is a solution for this initial set of tasks. If you go to source, you go to Redis client, and you have the code for that. And then you go to API server, you have the code for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Every task has the solution branch. So every task section has a solution branch. So when we do a web server, this will be the solution branch for it. But we've been working on the API server, so the solution branch for it is up here. Cool. All right, so we'll be looking at next class. We're going to be looking at web server and how to set that up. And to recap what we did, we went through it step by step, starting from nothing really. Set up Node, npm, package.json, Babel, Babel Node. We started making our development workflow more seamless. We tested everything along the way, and then we ended up our development environment. We ended up using NodeMon. But we saw how the cloud actually, how the cloud, what type of script, what type of that the cloud would actually use, Heroku would actually run Babel and not NodeMon, because it runs Babel and then it runs Node. And then we also looked at lint, ESLint, and we started deploying to Heroku. We saw how that was set up. And then we added the we used Express.js as our API server, and then we set up Redis both, and we did everything in our local and on Heroku on the cloud. Okay, well, hopefully that was you guys were able to follow along. I know at least one of you got up to this point, and that's actually very good. So, but if anything, the recording, if you missed anything, there will be a recording. The link, they usually send it out the next day. So you can go back and see if there's anything that you need to replay. And the branch with the solution is also out there. If there aren't any more questions, then I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll see you next Thursday. Oh, also, any questions during the week or as you're working on this, you can put them on Slack on this React project class channel. So make sure you join that. Any questions you have, you can put them there, and I'll do my best to reply as soon as I can. I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.